Lieutenant Dae-ho Kim stepped off the transport shuttle, his heart pounding against his ribs. The air on Nilari Prime felt thicker than Earth's, sweet with unfamiliar scents. His carefully pressed uniform suddenly felt inadequate as he faced the welcoming party of tall, four-armed aliens with skin that shifted colors like oil on water. "Welcome, human ambassador," said one Nilari, stepping forward. "I am Tae-ri, your liaison during your stay." Her voice was musical, each word precisely translated through the device in Dae-ho's ear. "Thank you for this honor," Dae-ho replied, bowing slightly. 2 years of diplomatic training had prepared him for this moment, Earth's first official contact with the Nilari civilization. What his training hadn't covered was what came next. "Before meeting our High Chamber, you must undergo the Kel-Thurek," Tae-ri announced. The translator hesitated before rendering it as purification ritual. Dae-ho nodded confidently, though his mind raced. His briefing had mentioned ritual greetings, but nothing specific. "I would be honored to participate in your customs." Tae-ri led him through corridors of flowing architecture, where walls seemed to breathe and shimmer. Other Nilari paused their activities to watch the human pass, their large eyes blinking with curiosity. "The Kel-Thurek is sacred," Tae-ri explained as they walked. "All who seek wisdom from our leaders must first be cleansed of outside influences. It prepares both body and mind for honest exchange." Dae-ho nodded again, assuming they meant some kind of meditation or perhaps a symbolic hand-washing. The massive doors that opened before them suggested otherwise. The chamber was vast, with steaming pools set into the floor. Glowing crystals provided soft light, and the air was heavy with fragrant steam. Around the largest pool stood 5 Nilari, taller than Tae-ri, their skin shimmering with deeper hues. Each wore only simple wraps that left their 4 arms free. "These are our ritual attendants," Tae-ri said. "They will perform the Kel-Thurek." One stepped forward. "I am Ji-1, first attendant. We welcome you, Earthchild." Her eyes, large and deep purple, studied him with interest. Dae-ho cleared his throat. "What exactly does the ritual involve?" "Complete cleansing," Ji-1 replied simply. Another attendant approached with a tray. "You must remove your outer coverings. They contain particles from your world that would contaminate the ritual waters." Dae-ho blinked rapidly. "You want me to undress?" Tae-ri tilted her head. "Is this problematic? Our research indicated humans bathe to maintain cleanliness." "Yes, but..." Dae-ho felt heat rising in his face. "Usually alone or with, intimate partners." The attendants exchanged looks, their skin tones shifting to paler blues. Ji-1 spoke softly to Tae-ri in their native language before addressing Dae-ho again. "We misunderstood human customs. The Kel-Thurek is not simply bathing. It is a sacred trust. The attendants are highly trained cultural ambassadors. 3 species before yours were denied alliance because they refused this trust." Dae-ho swallowed hard. His mission brief had been clear: establish positive relations at all costs. Humanity needed allies in this region of space. "I apologize for my hesitation," he said. "I would be honored to participate fully in your tradition." Relief visibly passed through the attendants, their skin rippling with warmer colors. Minutes later, Dae-ho found himself submerged to his shoulders in warm, lightly bubbling water that smelled of something like citrus and cinnamon. Ji-1 and 2 other attendants, Yoon-ha and Min-ki, worked methodically, their 4 arms allowing them to apply various oils and scrubs with remarkable efficiency. "Your epidermis is fascinating," observed Yoon-ha, rubbing a blue gel onto Dae-ho's arm. "It absorbs the purifying oils differently than any species we've encountered." "The water feels unusual," Dae-ho commented, trying to maintain professional composure despite the bizarre situation. "It contains minerals from our sacred mountains," explained Min-ki. "They help remove impurities and prepare the body for truth-speaking." As they continued the ritual, the attendants began asking questions about Earth, human physiology, and cultural practices. Dae-ho answered each question honestly, Realizing that this was more than a bath, it was his first diplomatic briefing. "Why does your species clothe itself so completely?" asked Jai-1, applying a purple powder to his shoulders that tingled pleasantly. "For protection, temperature regulation, and cultural modesty," Daho explained. "Different human cultures have different standards about showing skin. Yet you agreed to this ritual despite your discomfort," observed Minki. "This shows adaptability." Daho smiled slightly. "Humans place high value on respecting other cultures, especially when we're guests." The ritual continued for nearly an hour. His initial embarrassment gradually faded as he realized the Nilari viewed the process with entirely clinical interest. They were studying him as much as cleansing him. When it finally ended, he was provided with a simple wrap of shimmering material that felt like silk, but seemed to adjust its temperature to his body. "You have honored us with your trust, Lieutenant Kim," said Jai-1. "Few visitors accept our customs so gracefully." Daho bowed slightly. "And you have honored me with your hospitality." As he followed Tairi to the next chamber, Daho realized his diplomatic mission had already begun. Not in formal meetings with leaders, but in a bathing ritual he would certainly leave out of his official report back to Earth. Daho settled into the second phase of the Kelthuric ritual, now seated on a smooth stone bench partially submerged in warm, fragrant water. The initial awkwardness had faded, replaced by professional curiosity. Ji-1 worked methodically, her forearms applying different oils to his skin with practiced precision. "Each oil serves a purpose," she explained, massaging a golden liquid into his shoulders. "This one opens the pathways of honest communication." "In a literal or symbolic sense?" Daho asked, wincing slightly as the oil tingled against his skin. "Both," Jai-1 replied. Her large eyes studied his reaction. "It contains compounds that stimulate truthfulness. Your skin absorbs it differently than ours." Daho tensed. "You're using chemicals on me, without consent." The other attendants paused their activities. Yunhe's skin shifted to a concerned pale blue. "This troubles you." On Earth, using substances to influence someone without their knowledge would be considered unethical, Daho explained carefully. Minki approached, holding a small device that analyzed the oils on Daho's skin. "The compounds only enhance existing traits. They cannot make you speak falsely or reveal what you wish to conceal." "The Kelthuric is about truth," Jai-1 added. "Not secrets. We seek compatibility, not advantage." Daho considered this. His mission was to establish trust. Perhaps this was simply their way of doing the same. "I understand," he finally said. "Please continue." As the ritual resumed, the questions became more direct. "Why does humanity seek contact with other species?" asked Jai-1, her four hands working in perfect harmony as she applied a shimmering paste to his arms. "Curiosity, exchange of knowledge. Security through alliance," Daho answered honestly, "and a desire to not be alone in the universe." "Yet your history shows conflict among your own kind," observed Minki, his deeper voice resonating in the chamber. "Yes, we've fought terrible wars," Daho admitted, "but we've also created art, music, and literature that celebrates peace. We're complex, as are all sentient beings." Jai-1 hummed a note that caused ripples in the water. "The last species that came here claimed they had evolved beyond conflict." "That sounds unlikely," Daho said. "It was a lie," Minki confirmed. "We detected it during their Kelthuric. They were scouts for a conquest force." Daho's eyes widened. "So this ritual is a security screening?" "Among other purposes," said Jai-1. "The Nilari have survived for 20,000 years because we understand truth has many layers." A new attendant entered the chamber, her skin a deeper purple than the others. She carried a bowl of what looked like tiny silver fish that swam in circles. "This is Sung Min," Jai-1 introduced her. "She will complete your preparation." Sung Min nodded formally. "I specialize in the final cleansing." Her voice was deeper, more authoritative. She placed the bowl beside the pool. These are Lithmar cleaners. They remove the final impurities from the skin. Before Daho could protest, she scooped several of the tiny silver creatures and placed them on his shoulder. Instead of feeling strange or uncomfortable, a pleasant warming sensation spread across his skin. They're drawn to microscopic particles foreign to our world, Sung Min explained. They consume them without harming your tissue. As the tiny creatures worked, Sung Min asked the most direct questions yet. If Earth discovered the Nilari possessed technology far beyond your own, would you attempt to acquire it by force? Daho considered his answer carefully. Some humans might want to, but our leadership understands that theft creates enemies, while fair exchange creates allies. And if we requested defensive alliance against a common threat, Earth would consider such a request seriously, weighing our capabilities and the nature of the threat. Sung Min's eyes narrowed slightly. A diplomatic answer. An honest one, Daho countered. I can't commit my entire planet to an alliance you haven't formally proposed, for a threat you haven't identified. For the first time, the attendants exchanged looks that seemed approving. Ji-Won's skin rippled with warmer colors. Few visitors maintain such clarity during the deep oils phase, she noted. Your species has remarkable mental discipline. As the ritual continued, Daho learned that the Nilari viewed cleanliness as directly connected to honesty. Their evolution on a world with caustic atmospheric components had made skin-level biological defenses essential, and these same biological systems were linked to their brain chemistry. To lie causes physical discomfort for us, explained Yuna. Our skin becomes irritated, much like what you would call a rash. That would make political meetings on Earth very interesting, Daho commented, earning musical laughter from the attendants. By the ritual's midpoint, Daho realized the Kelthurak was far more than a bath. It was a complex cultural exchange disguised as a simple tradition. The attendants weren't servants but high-ranking cultural ambassadors, evaluating his responses and humanity's potential as allies. 3 other species refused to complete this ritual, Ji-Won told him as she applied a final rinse. They considered it beneath their dignity. And what happened to them? Daho asked. We declined further contact, Min Ki stated simply. Those who cannot respect differences cannot be trusted in alliance. As the attendants helped him from the pool, wrapping him in fresh garments that adjusted their temperature to his body, Daho realized he had passed some unspoken test. The Nilari around him now moved with less formality, their skin colors displaying warmer hues. You honor us with your adaptability, Sung Min said, bowing slightly. The High Chamber will be pleased to meet with you tomorrow. Daho returned the bow. And I am grateful for your patience with our differences. For the first time since arriving, he felt he was making real progress in his mission. Sometimes, he reflected, diplomacy required getting outside your comfort zone, quite literally. Daho followed Tuiri through the winding corridors of the Nilari complex, feeling surprisingly refreshed after the extensive bathing ritual. His skin tingled pleasantly from the various oils and treatments, and he wore the light, shimmering garment the attendants had provided. It adjusted to his body temperature and felt like wearing nothing at all, which still made him slightly self-conscious. The final phase of preparation takes place in the Chamber of Voices, Tairi explained. There, you will be presented to the preliminary council before tomorrow's meeting with the High Chamber. I'm ready, Daho said confidently. The ritual had been strange but enlightening. He felt he understood the Nilari better now. They entered a vast circular room with a domed ceiling covered in what looked like luminescent moss. About 20 Nilari were present, their skin colors shifting in what Daho now recognized as expressions of interest and curiosity. In the center was a shallow pool filled with a clear liquid that glowed softly. Ji-Won approached, her 4 arms moving in a formal greeting pattern. Lieutenant Kim, you have completed the physical purification admirably. Now we prepare your voice for the council. My voice? Daho asked. The waters of clarity, Ji-Won explained, gesturing to the pool. They enhance the harmonics of communication when you speak across them. It is tradition to make one's first formal address with feet in the sacred waters. Daho nodded agreeably. After being scrubbed by four-armed aliens for hours, standing in a small pool seemed simple enough. He removed his foot coverings as instructed and stepped into the ankle-deep liquid. It was pleasantly warm and seemed to vibrate subtly against his skin. "Now," Jaidwan said, "please introduce yourself formally to our gathering." Daho cleared his throat. The room had fallen silent, all eyes on him. He decided to keep it simple but respectful. "I am Lieutenant Daho Kim of Earth, grateful for your welcome and honored by your traditions. My skin glows with the oils of your sacred ritual, and I stand ready to build a bridge between our worlds." He thought it was a nice touch to reference the oils, showing appreciation for their customs. But the moment the words left his mouth, a ripple of reaction spread through the room. The Nilari skin tones shifted rapidly, flashing between deep purple and bright yellow. Several made musical sounds that his translator couldn't interpret. Jaiwan's four hands fluttered in what looked like alarm. Tairi stepped quickly to the edge of the pool, her skin pulsing with bright colors. "Is something wrong?" Daho asked, suddenly concerned. The room erupted in what he now recognized as laughter, a harmonious, musical sound that echoed off the domed ceiling. Even Jaiwan's normally composed features had changed, her skin sparkling with amusement. "What did I say?" Daho asked, fighting embarrassment. He remained standing in the pool, unsure whether to step out. Tairi composed herself first. "Forgive us, Lieutenant. There appears to be a translation difficulty." Jaiwan approached the pool's edge. "When you said, 'My skin glows with the oils of your sacred ritual,' our language interpreted this as, 'My divine essence has been awakened by your holy preparations.'" "Oh," Daho said, feeling his face grow hot. "That's not what I meant." Furthermore, Jaiwan continued, her skin still flickering with amusement. "The phrase 'ready to build a bridge between our worlds' translates literally to prepared to create a divine pathway, allowing our spirits to merge." Tairi added helpfully, "You essentially proclaimed yourself a deity awakened by our humble ministrations, now ready to absorb our essences into yours." Daho wanted to sink into the pool and disappear. "I am so sorry for the misunderstanding." An older Nilari approached, his skin a deep wise blue. "No apology needed. Your translator device cannot grasp the contextual subtleties of our language." "The issue," explained Jaiwan, "is that words describing physical sensations often have spiritual meanings in our language. Our ancestors believed the physical and spiritual worlds were connected through the skin." "I see," Daho said, though he didn't entirely. "How should I proceed?" "Perhaps simpler statements for now," suggested Tairi, "until we adjust your translator." Daho nodded and addressed the room again. "I am human. I come in peace. I seek friendship between Earth and Nilari." This time, the reaction was different. A gentle rippling of approval moved through their skin colors, and several nodded in acknowledgement. But the damage was done. Word of the human ambassador who had proclaimed divine status spread quickly through the complex. As Daho was escorted to his quarters after the ceremony, he noticed Nilari stopping to watch him pass, their skin flickering with colors he now recognized as suppressed amusement. "Will this affect the negotiations?" he asked Tairi worriedly. "Not negatively," she assured him. "The Nilari appreciate honesty, and your willingness to correct your mistake shows integrity." But, he prompted, "You may hear references to your divine proclamation for some time. My people enjoy gentle humor." In his quarters, Daho sent a carefully worded message to Earth Command, explaining the cultural exchange, but omitting the details of the bath ritual and his accidental deification. Some things were better left for the verbal debriefing. Later that evening, as he prepared for sleep, a message arrived from Jaiwan. "Rest well, Earthchild. Tomorrow, we discuss matters of true significance. Your adaptability today has opened doors." Even gods make mistakes after all. Daho read the message twice, then laughed out loud. Perhaps this diplomatic mission would succeed after all, not despite his embarrassing misunderstandings, but because of how he handled them. The Nilari valued truth and adaptability, and he had demonstrated both, even while standing in a glowing pool, wrapped in alien fabric, accidentally claiming divinity. The morning after his accidental proclamation of divinity, Daho was awakened by a gentle chiming from somewhere in his quarters. He sat up, still adjusting to the strange lighting that mimicked Earth's sunrise. "Lieutenant Kim," came Tairi's voice through a communication panel. "Your presence is requested in the strategic chamber. This is unexpected but important." Daho dressed quickly in the fresh uniform that had been cleaned and returned to his room. "Is something wrong?" he asked. "Not wrong," Tairi replied carefully, "but urgent. Sung Min will escort you." Outside his door, Sung Min waited. Her skin was a deep, serious blue today, with none of yesterday's amusement. "The High Chamber has moved up your meeting," she explained as they walked. "What I am about to show you was not scheduled for diplomatic sharing until much later." They entered a section of the complex Daho hadn't seen before. The architecture was more angular here, less flowing. The few Nilari they passed wore uniforms rather than the loose garments he'd seen elsewhere. "This is your military section," Daho observed. Sung Min's skin flickered with surprise. "Yes. How did you know?" "The design is more functional than aesthetic. We do the same on Earth." She nodded. "Perhaps our species have more in common than we realized." They stopped before a heavy door guarded by two tall Nilari with skin so dark it was almost black. They studied Daho with unblinking eyes before stepping aside. The room beyond was dimly lit. In its center floated a three-dimensional display of what appeared to be star systems. Several Nilari stood around it, including Jai-1, who now wore a fitted uniform similar to Sung Min's. "You're military too?" Daho asked Jai-1, surprised. "I am second commander of Nilari Defense," she replied. "The bath attendants were not randomly selected, Lieutenant." An older Nilari stepped forward. His skin was the deepest blue Daho had seen, with streaks of silver that seemed to pulse with energy. "I am Hansel, first leader of the High Chamber," he introduced himself. "Your interesting proclamation yesterday accelerated our timeline." Daho felt his face grow warm. "About that misunderstanding." Hansel raised a hand. "It matters not. What matters is what the ritual revealed. The purification oils showed unusual patterns in your responses. You maintained honesty even under stress. This is rare among first contacts." Jai-1 touched the display, and the star map zoomed out. "This is Nilari space," she explained, indicating a cluster of bright points. Then she moved her hand, and the view shifted to show a dark mass approaching. "And this is what concerns us." Daho stepped closer. "What am I looking at?" "The Morvith Collective," Sung Min said. "A species that consumes rather than communicates. They strip planets of resources and move on. They have destroyed 3 civilizations in the past decade." The display changed to show massive ships, organic in appearance, like giant insects made of metal and living tissue. "And they're coming here?" Daho asked. "Yes," Hansel confirmed. "Our long-range sensors detected them changing course toward our system 2 months ago. We estimate 8 Earth months until their arrival." Daho studied the display. "Why show me this now?" Our diplomatic schedule had defense discussions planned for next week. "The Kelthuric revealed something important," Jai-1 explained. "When the oils of truth-seeking were applied, your skin absorbed them differently than we expected. The analysis suggests humans and Nilari are biologically compatible in ways that could be strategically valuable." "Compatible how?" Daho asked cautiously. "Our technologies are biologically integrated," Sung Min explained, touching a panel on her arm that caused her skin to shimmer with enhanced patterns. "Our defense systems respond to our unique biology, but they may also respond to yours." Hansol stepped closer to Daiho. We have developed weapons that can repel the Morveth, but we lack the numbers to deploy them effectively. If humans can operate our systems, you're suggesting a military alliance? Daiho asked, his diplomatic training kicking in. I don't have authority to. We understand, Jai-1 interrupted, but time is short. We need to know if Earth would consider such an alliance before we invest resources in adaptation. Daiho studied the display again, watching the simulated movement of the Morveth fleet. If they destroy you, they'll eventually find Earth too, won't they? Almost certainly, Sungmin confirmed. They are methodical in their expansion. Daiho took a deep breath. This was far beyond his mission parameters. He was supposed to establish initial diplomatic relations, not commit to military action. But the threat seemed real, and the opportunity for advanced technology sharing was significant. I can't promise Earth's response, he said carefully, but I can promise to present your case honestly and advocate for serious consideration. Hansol's skin brightened with blue light. That is all we ask for now. There is one more thing you should see, Jai-1 said, changing the display to show something that looked like armor, shaped to fit a human body. We began designing these after your arrival, based on scans taken during the Kelthurek. They would allow humans to interface with our weapon systems. Daiho stared at the designs, realizing the welcome ritual had been far more than a cultural exchange or even a truth test. It had been a complete biological assessment. The bath oils, he said slowly. They weren't just for cleansing or truth-telling. You were scanning me. Sungmin nodded. Yes. The Kelthurek serves many purposes. We needed to know if alliance was even possible on a biological level. And is it? Daiho asked. Jai-1's skin rippled with what he now recognized as excitement. More than possible. It is promising. Your proclamation yesterday may have been accidental, but perhaps it was also prophetic. How so? Daiho asked. You spoke of building a bridge between our worlds, Hansol said. That bridge may now be humanity's best hope against extinction, and ours. The Earth Security Council chamber fell silent as the holographic display finished showing the Morveth fleet. Daiho stood at attention, his dress uniform crisp after the long journey home. 6 weeks had passed since his first contact with the Nilari, and now everything depended on this meeting. Let me understand correctly, said Secretary General Hejun, leaning forward across the polished table. You participated in an alien bathing ritual, accidentally declared yourself a god, and now propose we commit Earth's resources to a war that isn't ours. There were a few chuckles around the table. Daiho kept his expression neutral. With respect, sir, the war will become ours whether we choose it or not. The Morvath don't stop. They consume and move on. Admiral Sunwoo, head of Earth's defense forces, studied the data tablet before him. These Nilari biocompatible weapons, you're certain humans can operate them? Yes, Admiral. I operated a prototype myself before returning. Daiho tapped his communicator, and a new hologram appeared. Footage of him wearing sleek armor that pulsed with the same colors as Nilari skin, firing energy weapons that responded to his movements. Impressive, murmured Dr. Junseo, the Council's science advisor. Their technology is at least a century beyond ours. And they're willing to share this technology, asked Minister Bora skeptically. What do they want in return? Numbers, Daiho replied simply. The Nilari population is small. They reproduce slowly and live long lives. They have the technology to defeat the Morvath, but lack the personnel to deploy it effectively. Hejun leaned back in his chair, his expression grave. So they bathe our ambassador, scan him without consent, and then ask for our soldiers. Daiho hesitated. Put that way, it sounded problematic. Sir, I believe their intentions are honorable. They face extinction, and after the Morvath finish with them, they'll eventually find us. The council deliberated for hours. Daiho stood patiently, answering questions about Nilari culture, technology, and defenses. Finally, Hejun called for a vote. "The Council has decided," he announced. "Earth will enter into a defensive alliance with the Nilari civilization against the Morvath threat." He fixed Daho with a stern look. "Lieutenant Kim, as you initiated this contact, you will continue as our primary liaison." 3 months later, Daho stood in the vast training facility constructed on the outskirts of the Nilari capital. Hundreds of human soldiers worked alongside Nilari instructors, learning to use the bio-responsive armor and weapons. The integration had not been without challenges. "Your people are remarkably adaptable," observed Jai-1, now a familiar presence at his side. "But some still struggle with the mental component of our technology." Daho nodded. "We're used to technology that responds to physical commands, not emotional states." Across the room, a human surgeon named Maids demonstrated perfect control of her armor, the colors shifting smoothly as she moved through combat forms. Others watched in admiration. "She understands," Jai-1 commented. "The armor responds to intention, not just motion." "She spent extra time in the adaptation chambers," Daho explained. "Not everyone was as enthusiastic about the modified Kelthuric as I was." The Earth forces had indeed balked at the idea of the full ritual. A compromise had been reached, a simplified process that focused on the biological scanning and compatibility oils, without the cultural elements that had so embarrassed Daho. "Some of your people call it getting juiced now," Jai-1 said, her skin rippling with amusement. "They have created many jokes about it. Humans use humor to cope with strange situations," Daho explained. "It's a good sign. It means they're accepting the process." A commotion at the far end of the training room caught their attention. Sungmin had entered with a group of high-ranking Earth officers, including Admiral Sunwoo. "The Joint Command meets today to finalize the defense grid positioning," Jai-1 explained. "The Morvath will reach the outer system in less than 3 months." Daho nodded. Time had moved quickly. What had begun as a simple diplomatic mission had transformed into the largest joint military operation in human history. Later that evening, Daho sat with Jai-1 and Sungmin on a balcony overlooking the Nilari capital. The 3 moons cast different colored lights across the flowing architecture. "I've been meaning to ask," Daho said, sipping a Nilari beverage that tasted like spiced honey. "That first day, did you know how important our meeting would become?" Jai-1's skin shifted to thoughtful blue patterns. "We hoped. Our scientists had studied your broadcasts for years. Humans showed potential compatibility." "So the whole bath ritual was just a compatibility test?" Daho asked. "Not just that," Sungmin corrected. "It was also tradition. And now it has become legend." "Legend?" Daho raised an eyebrow. "The story of the human who proclaimed himself divine, then helped save 2 civilizations," Jai-1 explained. "It is already being taught to Nilari children." Daho groaned. "I'll never live that down, will I?" "Would you want to?" Sungmin asked. "Without that mistake, we might have proceeded too slowly. The Morvath would have arrived before our alliance was formed." From the sky above, a bright flash announced the arrival of another Earth transport ship bringing more personnel and equipment. Soon the combined fleet would move to the outer system to prepare for the Morvath arrival. "To mistakes that turn into opportunities," Daho said, raising his glass. The Nilari mimicked the gesture, something they had learned from the humans. "And to welcome rituals," added Jai-1 with musical laughter, "which sometimes reveal more than expected." As they looked to the stars, Daho reflected on how his embarrassing first contact had transformed into humanity's most important alliance. Sometimes, he thought, the most uncomfortable moments led to the greatest understanding. And sometimes, being scrubbed by gorgeous alien maids was just the beginning of something much bigger than anyone could have imagined.